Welcome back to another Explainer. Today, we're taking a fascinating journey that stretches all the way from the grand, optimistic halls of international diplomacy right down to the strict and, honestly, pretty gritty realities of global food science. We're looking at the complex and surprisingly intense world of halal certifications abroad. It's a story of global unity, constantly shifting standards, and a massive push toward absolute zero tolerance in the food we eat every single day.
Okay, let's dive into this. How do you actually guarantee that a simple chicken sausage served in a school lunch is, without a doubt, 100% halal? In our highly complex modern supply chains, tracing the exact origin of our food is just incredibly difficult. And as you'll see today, the stakes are massive. I mean, imagine the absolute public outrage when pork DNA was discovered hiding inside school meals that were strictly supposed to be halal. No way, right? How does a contamination like that even happen? And more importantly, how do global authorities step in to stop it? To figure out how the food industry tackles this absolute puzzle of a challenge, we first need to decode a little bit of alphabet soup. So, we've got two major players we'll be discussing today. First up is the WHFC, or the World Halal Food Council. You can think of them as the global governance body trying to unify standards worldwide. Then we have the HFA, the Halal Food Authority, and they represent strict local enforcement, specifically over in the UK. We're going to zoom in from the broad, sweeping global vision of the WHFC, right down to the ground-level scientific regulations of the HFA.
Let's start with the big picture. Our source material points us back to 1999 at a really pivotal gathering in a Hilton hotel. The Indonesian Council of Ulama, also known as LPPOM-MUI, recognized a major issue. There were all these isolated halal organizations scattered all around the world acting completely independently. So they wanted to bring these groups together for something called Silaturahim, which is this great Indonesian concept of building connections, getting to know each other, and essentially working together. And it was this simple unifying idea that birthed the World Halal Food Council.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is just the surprisingly diverse global makeup of that 1999 founding team. Take a look at this roster. You've got Professor Aisha Girendra taking the helm as the first president, but then look at the rest of the board. There's a vice president from the USA, a general secretary from Australia, and a treasurer from the Netherlands. So right from its very inception, this wasn't just some localized regional initiative. It was a truly multinational coalition trying to standardize a rapidly growing global industry. The council had a very specific mission from day one, which basically boils down to three foundational pillars. They set out to regulate the halal standard in the slaughtering category, the food processing category, and the flavor industry category. This is absolutely crucial because it shows they understood right away that ensuring a food is halal isn't just about how an animal is prepared at a farm. It's about every single step and ingredient, all the way down to the microscopic artificial flavors added at the very end of the manufacturing line. But, as with any massive global organization trying to wrangle different countries and standards, there were definitely some growing pains. Looking at their organizational evolution, you can see some pretty clear shifts. Founded in 1999, they actually hit a bit of a bureaucratic hurdle a few years later, where they decided to drop the word food from their name entirely, temporarily becoming just the World Halal Council. But then on June 23, 2011, they hit the reset button in a major way, coming back together to officially reactivate as the original World Halal Food Council. This reactivation happened at a massive two-day summit at the Bidakara Hotel in Jakarta. Just picture it. Over 21 distinct certifying bodies from all corners of the globe gathering together in one room to hash out the future of their industry. After some long deliberations, the delegates unanimously decided to readopt the original 1999 visions and aims. They firmly reaffirmed their commitment to safeguarding the implementation of Sharia law, maintaining the unity of their organization, and, perhaps most importantly, achieving a unique, undisputed global standard. Aside from the philosophical goals, this 2011 Jakarta meeting resulted in some very concrete structural changes that really changed the game. They officially reactivated the WHFC. They elected the director of LPP-MUI as their new president, and importantly, they formally registered the WHC in Indonesia and established a permanent head office right there in Jakarta. This effectively centralized the organization's power, giving this incredibly widespread global network a solid, permanent geographic anchor to operate from. But even with these great global standards in place, the real test happens on the ground. So let's drastically shift our narrative from global bureaucracy to strict local enforcement. The Halal Food Authority, or HFA, expressed genuine shock and horror when pork DNA was discovered hiding within supposedly certified products. And this wasn't just any product. These were halal chicken sausages destined for children's school meals. It's a stark, scary reminder of how easily cross-contamination can happen in massive, highly automated modern food factories. The fallout from this school meal scandal was swift and it was severe. The HFA didn't just ask for better cleaning protocols. No, they demanded a fundamental change in accountability, requiring sweeping new regulations to be brought in immediately. Their solution? Processors and manufacturers of halal foods must now undertake mandatory DNA checks right at the source. This is a real game changer. It completely shifts the burden of proof directly onto the manufacturer to scientifically guarantee the DNA purity of their product before it ever leaves the factory doors. And this brilliantly illustrates how local enforcement standards rapidly evolved to become far more rigorous across the board. Let's look at a stark comparison regarding poultry processing. Under the old standard, mechanized killing via fixed automated mechanical blades was largely accepted. But the new standard is crystal clear. Mechanical slaughtering of poultry is absolutely no longer covered by the HAFA halal standard. The process literally had to return to strict, controlled, manual slaughter to ensure absolute compliance with the rules. Now, this wasn't just a polite suggestion for the industry. It was a hard, non-negotiable deadline. Following deep consultations and procedural reviews by the board of HFA scholars and trustees, they drew a definitive line in the sand. As of March 3, 2014, any poultry slaughterhouse that still employed a mechanical fixed blade completely lost its HFA accreditation for halal status. Basically, if you didn't adapt your massive factory lines to the manual standard by that exact date, you were out of the network entirely. But perhaps the most dramatic policy shift came in how factories handled general multi-product manufacturing. Historically, the broader food industry relied on what we might call workarounds to maximize factory efficiency. A facility might process pork products on line 1 during the day, then they do a massive deep clean down of all the line's equipment and utensils. They might segregate the staff or swap shifts entirely, and then run halal products on that very same equipment. For a long time, this was just standard accepted industry practice. Well, not anymore. So the crucial point is that the HFA's current policy is one of absolute zero tolerance. The Halal Food Authority completely prohibited the manufacturing of halal products on any line that has ever processed pork or pork-derived products, period. It literally does not matter how deep the clean is or how well you segregate your staff shifts or timing. To protect the ultimate integrity of halal-certified products, shared processing lines are entirely banned. Complete and utter physical segregation is the only way forward. Which brings us to a truly fascinating crossroads. We've seen how a noble desire for global unity in a Hilton hotel back in 1999 evolved into the incredibly strict DNA-level local enforcement we see in the UK today. So I'll leave you with this question to ponder. As our global supply chains grow infinitely more complex and intertwined, will zero-tolerance policies and mandatory DNA testing at the source become the universal standard for everything we eat? It's definitely something to think about the next time you look at a food label. Thank you for joining me on this explainer, and keep questioning what's on your plate.